Hey Rotary Swing golfers, welcome back. I'm your instructor Chris Tyler, and we're going to talk about consistency. That's one of those big areas that all the golfers that come to the website really want to become a more consistent golfer. Well, I got great news for you today. We're going to be starting a brand new 6-week program that's going to help you walk through step by step on how to become a more consistent ball striker. So if you've been struggling with fat shots, thin shots, erratic ball striking, hitting it all over the golf course, you want to pay close attention to this video series because, again, I'm going to guarantee your success if you follow along with this program over the next 6 weeks. Okay, time to get excited. Here we are at week number 1 of becoming a more consistent ball striker or a more consistent player in general. And our goal over these next 7 days is to eliminate a lot of your excess head movement. So if you've noticed yourself on camera and you take away your backswing and you've noticed that your head is moving too far off the golf ball, or you've even noticed that it moves towards the target while you're loading your golf swing up, then this video for the next 7 days is going to be really, really critical for you, because at the end of this, I'm going to give you a drill that's going to be really important that you spend time going through the reps, making sure that you get this perfect before we start to move on to the next step. Okay, so let's take a step back here and understand why it's important for us to keep our head quiet in the golf swing. Well, as part of the vestibular process, the way our eyes process information, if our eyes and our head are moving all over the place, it's very difficult for us to get things lined back up at the bottom of the swing arc. So we want to keep our head, which we would consider more of a centered piece of our body here, we want to keep that as quiet as humanly possible so that we don't have a lot of these other variables, a lot of big moving parts that are going to make it very difficult for us to get this club head lined up with that golf ball. We would all look at this game and say, man, that requires a ton of hand-eye coordination. And I do agree there is a little bit of hand-eye coordination to it. But again, we can make it way easier on ourselves just by stabilizing our head. Now, I will also say this. It is okay when you load up your golf swing for the head to move an inch, inch and a half or so laterally. We want that to happen. We need that to happen. If it didn't, if you tried to keep your head deadlocked still, okay, so if you made a golf swing where you're trying to keep your head really still over the golf ball, then chances are you're going to run into a reverse pivot, and that's very common with a lot of amateur golfers that we work with. So again, it's okay for your head to move an inch, inch and a half or so, especially when we start to get into the drill portion of this video. Okay, so before we get into the drill portion here, I want to go ahead and define some of these faults, what's causing them, so that you understand what you need to work through or why you need to work through this. That's one of the things that I don't want to just give you a drill and say, hey, this is all of a sudden going to make you a better player. I want you to be able to understand your faults. So if you've noticed on camera, okay, where your head dips, okay, so if you've noticed in your take away your backswing, your head goes down, then that is a byproduct of two things. Number one, you haven't really shifted your weight properly over to your trail leg, okay? So you haven't made any sort of shift. You're gonna notice that a lot of your weight kind of falls over to your left side here, or your lead side, and you're gonna notice that there's a lot of tilt to my pelvis here, okay? If you notice that your head is diving down, then your chances are you haven't shifted your weight enough, or you've tried to turn your shoulder plane far too steeply. Okay, our goal here is that we want our shoulders to rotate perpendicular to our spine. Okay, we want our shoulders to be able to rotate perpendicular. We don't want to increase that angle, because again, that's going to cause your head to dip. And when your head starts to dip, that means your spine angle is starting to change, and then in your downswing, what's going to happen is it's going to start to try to compensate, or it's going to start to try to correct itself. And again, that's going to lead to inconsistencies. Now, the second fault here is vertical movement. Okay, so if you've noticed on camera, your head moves vertically. Now, what's that a signal of? What's that an indication of it that you've done wrong in your golf swing? Well, chances are, going back to what we talked about in the first part here with not transferring your weight, is that you haven't really stabilized your pelvis. You haven't really tried to maintain the flex in that trail leg. If your leg goes straight, okay, chances are what's going to happen here is your hips are going to come forward, your spine is going to move vertical, and in turn, now your head is moving up. That's very, very difficult now, because think of your spine as now being a carousel. If it goes up, then it's going to have to come back down to where it started for us to be able to get the bat on the ball. Now, the third one here is the most common one we see with a lot of amateur players, and that is excess lateral head movement. Okay, so if you've noticed on camera that your head moves way off the golf ball, then we need to work on making sure that it doesn't get too far off the ball here. Now, what's the cause of this? Well, very commonly we see people take this lead arm and this lead shoulder, okay, and they push the club back really hard. Okay, so you try to get a lot of momentum and a lot of inertia moving the club in this direction. And what that does is it starts to pull your body, starts to pull your head too far off the ball. And again, going back to that, we want to stay as centered as possible here so we don't have a lot of things that are going to create inconsistencies in the ball striking. So now that we've identified it here, okay, we've understand that downward movement is going to be a lack of weight shift, a lack of proper weight shift, or turning your shoulders too steeply. Vertical head movement is going to be attributed to, it can also be attributed to not shifting your weight properly, but it can also be attributed to you not loading your right leg up properly and maintaining the flex in that leg. And then lateral movement is going to be from a lead side push. Okay, so if you've struggled with any of those areas, then the drill that we're about to get into here is going to be really critical for you for the next 7 days. So let's go ahead and get into that drill now. Okay, so now here we are at the drill portion of this week's video, and we're going to be really focused on trying to get 1,000 reps. Okay, I know that sounds like a really mind-boggling number here, but again, a lot of these drills are going to be designed where you can do these right in the comforts of your own home. So the way this drill is going to work, I want you to go ahead and get into your setup position. Okay, if you haven't worked through getting into a correct anatomic, a correct biomechanically safe setup position, then I really encourage you to take a look at the Fixing Your Setup video. That video, I walk you through a step-by-step process on how to get your setup perfect every single time, just like those guys you see on TV. So again, if you haven't watched that video, definitely take a look at it. All right, so we're gonna get into our setup position here, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to take the golf club, and I want you to have the club head over your trail shoulder here. And when we're gonna go ahead and cross our arms over our shoulders, okay? Try to get this set up so you can see properly. Now our goal here is two things. Number one, we need to be able to shift our weight, right? We talked a lot about that in the fault section is, you know, that can be a big issue is people not shifting their weight properly. So in order to do that, what I want you to do is I want you to lift your right heel up off the ground, or your trail heel. Okay, so you pick that up, and your first move is to push it into the ground. And when I say push it in the ground, push it. Okay, don't just set it down, push it in the ground. Now, why is that important? Well, that's important because that's going to tell us that you're shifting your weight. It's going to give you a signal that you have shifted your weight into that leg. Now, the next big piece is I want you to take this club head and I want you to pull it towards your spine. So you're going to lift your right heel up, push it in the ground, and you're going to pull that club head in towards your spine. You're going to notice that you'll start to feel some engagement in your core, your midsection here. You'll see that by pulling that club head towards your center, that's going to allow you to be able to move very centered in your golf swing. Okay, so we talk a lot about push versus pull on the website here, but again, our most important part here is pulling towards center. So again, the drill is going to look like pick the heel up, push it into the ground, pull the club head towards your spine. Now there is one extremely important ingredient to this drill that you really need to stay focused on for these next 7 days. And what I'm going to turn down the line so you can see this here. So when I pick my heel up and I push it into the ground and I turn my body, so I'm going to pull that club head towards my spine, what I want you to notice is that I've maintained the flex in my right knee. I haven't allowed it to go straight and I haven't allowed it to rotate at all. Okay, so your goal is to make sure when you push your heel into the ground and you're pulling that club head towards center, you want to keep that trail knee flexed and facing forward. Okay, if you do this properly, you're going to start to feel the medial side of your glute right here on the outer part of your butt here start to contract and light up. Those are great muscles for stability in your pelvis. Okay, so again, let's walk through this drill. Right heel up, push it in the ground, knee stays flexed, pull the club head towards my center. Okay, and I want you to do 300 reps. So your first 300 of the 1,000 reps are going to be done just with the club across your chest. Once you've gotten 300 reps of that, I want you to go ahead and grab a golf club, but I want you to get the light end up. Okay, I don't want you to swing from the heavy end yet, because the minute we start having a lot of momentum and a lot of inertia in this club head, we're going to lose kinesthetic awareness. So your next 300 reps are going to be done on this end. Now, to make this centered rotation, our focus point here is going to be taking our trail shoulder and pulling it directly towards our spine here. Okay, we're going to feel like we're pulling it directly behind our head. And that's going to allow your shoulders to rotate perpendicular to your spine. Okay? So again, once you have the light end down here, you're going to pull your right shoulder towards your center here. Okay? And that's going to cause your golf club to move. I don't care where the hands and arms go in this drill. Chances are your hands and arms are very well trained. If your club is a little bit deep at the top, or your hands and arms are maybe you're a little bit across the line or a little bit laid off, we're going to get to that part. Okay? That's an important part. But that's in a later part of the video in this series. So again, your goal here is 300 reps with the club across your chest. The next 300 are going to be on the light end. Okay. The final 400 reps you can do on the heavy end. Now I want you to know this. If you notice on camera or mirror that you see some sort of head movement starting to pop in here that you don't want, then I really encourage you to take a step back, okay? So if you're on the heavy end, you're on those last 400 reps and you're really committed to getting these 1,000 reps and you're starting to see your head moving, then pull yourself back down and go to the light end. And if you're still having a problem, then go back down to where the club is across your chest. There's no point of racing through this process. Again, the goal here is to get a lot of that excess head movement so we can stay as centered as possible and load our takeaway and load our backswing up so that we can use our body properly for downswing and not have to worry about tons of moving parts. Okay, so there you have it, week number 1. We're gonna be working on getting that head to stay really quiet in your golf swing so that you can start to load your golf swing up properly and start to eliminate a lot of that excess moving body parts that are gonna make it very hard for us to get the bat on the ball. And I know I talked a little bit about that fixing your setup video in the midst of the drill. And if you haven't seen that video, I'm gonna go ahead and include a link in the description below. Okay, if you click that link in the description below, it's gonna take you over to our website where you can sign up for a free membership and you can watch that video for free in its entirety, no questions asked. All right, so make sure you click that link in the description below. Also, feel free to post up your results below. Okay, if you have any questions or comments along this way, I'll certainly help you out. That's a great way for us to keep it social. It's a great way for me to get my hands in there and really help you out and help you understand even further how to make this even more perfect. Also, do me a favor and click that thumbs up button down there for me. Also, remember to subscribe to our channel now. That way you get notifications when video number 2 is coming out. All right, guys, good luck this week. I will see you guys next week. Make it a great day. Roundness to your shoulders. Now, this is obviously an exaggerated look at this. And what I want you to stay focused on is that even though this feels really stable, okay, because we feel like we can't be moving anywhere at all, we feel like we're stuck to the ground,